Hello, my name is Margaret Adele, and welcome to the October Monthly Report. How did my reading and all the challenges and all the money I've spent go in the month of October? Jumping right in with the notable news, not a lot happened. Really, the only thing was that I actually did follow somebody else's TBR game and beat it. I literally just watched an episode of Shrink the Shelf from All Rad Reads, which is really funny that I picked that specific TBR game to use, because my TBR is already very tiny, but the TBR gods smiled upon me, and I found something from my own TBR for literally every prompt, which was delightful, because in some cases, it was literally exactly one book I had that fit that prompt, but I did read all of them, and so completed that task for the hardest reading challenge you'll ever do. I am doing those reading updates a little bit differently than what I expected, because I just don't like just talking over a spreadsheet. As much as I love filling out spreadsheets, I don't like talking over them. So I'm going to be doing my Herkyed updates a little bit differently than a lot of other people are doing theirs. But that's fine. We're still making decent progress in that. No bingos yet. Not that that would matter. I'm going for a blackout anyway. But let's jump into the budget tracking. How much did I spend? So for the budget, originally I thought about doing a book getting ban because I am trying to see if I can read all of the books I got in 2025 within 2025, effectively getting my TBR to 0 for the second time. So that would have been made easier if I hadn't gotten any new books. But I just kept ending up in places with books. Like, the local queer indie bookstore was hosting a blood drive around the exact same time that I would have gone to donate anyway, and they were giving a free drink for donating, and I was like, sure, but then, I'm in a bookstore. Or like, we went to the Renaissance Fair, and there was an indie author, and, he was asking me what kind of books I like to read, and I said, oh, melodrama. And to his credit, he did not blink an eye. He held up a book about Santa Claus as an action hero, and I was like, damn it, you hit the nail on the head. Renaissance fairs are like the rare instance where I feel free to spend money, okay? Something about the magic of the fair just like temporarily makes me forget my money trauma. And then I realize everything I spend afterwards and it all comes roaring back. But for that brief time, it's magical. So I did get 4 books for a total of $55.99, or an average of $14 per book. For the entire calendar year, I have spent $422.19 across 119 books. That is a little bit more than what I was like really hoping for, which was to keep it under 400 for the year, but that's still pretty good because my more logical goal was 450, which if I stick to what I need to stick to complete goals by the end of the year, we will be well under 450. There are still a couple more books I need to get for the hardest reading challenge you'll ever do that are time sensitive, but they shouldn't add up to more than around 20-ish. So we're cutting it a little bit close, but we should be fine. So for the averages for the entire year, I've spent an average of $42.22 per month and $3.55 per book. So well within all of my goals, although I have been starting to put together all of my data for the year because I love the data, and I have discovered that I have not gotten nearly enough review books and those kind of things. So I think next year I am going to emphasize even more focusing on review books, focusing on other like cheaper thrifted books to see if I can drop that number down even more, because I feel like I just have too much access. Like, I literally have a little free library in my yard that I haven't really used a lot. I think I've gotten like 2 books from there, and it's right there. So I should use that more, and maybe that number can get even lower next year because, cost of living isn't getting cheaper. Up next is challenge tracking, and this, slightly embarrassing, because I think we can all safely say that I bit off way more than I could chew with these challenges, because I have dropped more than I stuck with, and that trend is continuing today. But let's talk about the one I am sticking with first, and that is the series, trying to get caught up on all of my series. I only made minor headway into this one this month, purely because I wasn't DNFing any major series like last month. So I am still working on 14. 9 of those have current installments I have not read, which leaves me with a total of 48 books. And the vast majority of that 48 books is split across like 3 series. There are 3 series that I just need to like go in. And thankfully, I do still have books that I got earlier this year on my TBR that I own that I want to read before the end of the year. So this will be dropped down by at least like 5 or 6 books. But if someone else drops a new installment, like I don't know how much progress it's actually going to be. NetGalley. I wrote in the blog post, link down below, that I wouldn't be surprised if I dropped this challenge. But I wasn't thinking that, no, I have to drop this challenge for the year because I don't want to get any new books and I don't already have a NetGalley arc out. So we got to be done for the year. Maybe if I get really on top of things in November and suddenly get caught up out of nowhere, maybe, but probably not. And it's not that the NetGalley books have been bad. There haven't been any 1-stars. They're just not usually the books to write home about. The only one I can really think of that really changed things for me was the nonfiction about hand sewing. And there's not a lot of books like that on NetGalley, so I'll keep it in the back of my head. Maybe I can get caught up on this one next year just because I literally am 2 or 3 arcs at most away from hitting my goal of 95%. But we're dropping it for the rest of the year, basically. But the good news is I have officially beaten the 52 book club challenge. I honestly beat it a little bit later than I was anticipating. I thought I would beat it in September-ish, and it took me until literally the 31st of October to get the final book read. So a little bit later, but still pretty early considering the fact that it's meant to take the entire calendar year. Again, it was one of those things where it's looking back, I can't think of a specific book that I read just for that challenge that really jumps out at me. And I probably won't be doing it again next year only because I have the hardest reading challenge I'll ever do, and that one is just a lot more fun, a lot more in depth. I just like the prompts a lot more on that one. But I am proud of myself for doing it. There was a time when I struggled to get even those yearly challenges read, and I did finish it pretty early. I think this is the earliest I've ever finished one of those yearly reading challenges. I usually didn't finish the Pop Sugar back when I was doing those, before they cozied up to AI and made using AI a requirement for their prompts. I would usually finish that one in late November, early December. So I'm getting better at this. Just as a whole, my reading is getting faster. But I am going to focus on fewer challenges, but bigger challenges. So this year when I was I want to do this and this and this and this, that was too much. They were smaller and I could have completed any one of them with ease, but I think I want to do the hardest reading challenge I'll ever do, getting caught up on series, and reading a certain amount of review books. I think those are going to be my 3 big challenges, because reading 100 books a year isn't a challenge for me, and that's usually what I set every year. And then we're just going to focus on that. I'm actually going to be redoing the entirety of what these monthly reports are, but that's for a December conversation. I'm going to be putting out so much content in December, man. That end of the year content is always such a rush, but it's so much to do. All right, moving on. Up next is the negative notable read, and thankfully I didn't really have any hugely negative notable read like I did for the last report where I had a book that made me so mad. It was a 1-star. I DNF'd the series. I ended up in a reading slump. Nothing that bad. It was just disappointing for what I thought it was, and that is Severance by Ling Ma. And in all honesty, I probably should have guessed something was wrong when I picked this up in the local queer indie bookstore, and I noticed that there's more reviews than synopsis on the back. Literally all of this text, this is the only reference to what the book is actually about. All the rest of it is just reviews. But it's supposed to be The Office, the old sitcom, meets The End of the World. And I was like, well, yeah, obviously, that sounds like a good satire. And the reviews were saying things like, laughable. It's oh, okay, it's funny. But I don't think anybody told the writing style that it's meant to be funny, because there was such a disconnect between the plot and the world building and the writing style. Because the plot was heavy-handed anti-capitalism. And don't get me wrong, I'm so anti-capitalist, but very on the nose anti-capitalism. But the writing style took everything deadly seriously. You literally have a corporate cult led by a man named Bob, who is trying to walk them through all this pseudo kind of religious mindset corporate jargon, and it's taking it all perfectly seriously in the narrative. It was the weirdest thing. And then there were moments where they're talking about the Chinese immigrant experience of our protagonist and her family, and at that point the writing style fit, but then we're trying to jump back to the satirical end of the world, and you're it didn't vibe very well. Like, without the over the top humor of the writing style, the over the top, on the nose message about anti capitalism felt way too full of itself. Like, there were certain moments where, like, the fevered, aka the zombie type beings, they don't crave flesh. They literally are just like drones stuck in their rut. Like, they keep performing the habits of their previous life over and over again, not realizing that the world is falling apart around them. You know, food's all going bad and all of that. And I'm like, okay, on the nose. But again, we're taking it completely seriously. Like, it was just those little things. And I would still read something by this author because it was published a while ago. I think this was like in 2018. So I would love to read it, like probably more of a contemporary or literary where that writing style would work. Hopefully she now puts quotation marks around the dialogue. I don't know what that's supposed to do. Like, I don't know what the artistic choice is there, but I ended up listening to the audiobook for a lot of it just because the narrator would actually differentiate when a character was speaking. But regardless, I would still like to see this concept done again, maybe just with a different writing style for effect. Our positive notable read is also anti-capitalist, namely that it is anti-capitalist lesbians going feral, and that is Ambrosia by Lenia Lenient. This is a contemporary thriller, you could say, all about this girl group named Moxie and the hell they are put through that leads to something. Our book begins with carnage. It is an award show, but now there's broken glass everywhere and blood, and everyone's gowns are torn, and there's references to people being sued, and we know that somehow the members of Moxie was responsible for this, but we don't know the details. And the rest of the story is told in a non-linear fashion where we are leading up to that moment, what happened at that awards show. And I'm not gonna lie, at first, like the first half of the book, I was like, okay, I'm gonna be lucky if this is a 4-star, just because it was so slow, but I did want to know what happened. Like, that led me to keep reading, which is why I would call it a thriller, as that kind of like, I need to know. But the second half is really where it picks up and takes off. I made a reference to the review video that I literally like meant to just like skim the first page of the second half, just to, like, see where I'm at before I went off to do something else. And I was immediately glued and read the entire second half in one sitting when I didn't even mean to. So once it goes, and it's one of those endings where it basically justifies the entire book's existence. Like, a lot of random innocuous world building elements and references make a lot more sense and give you a lot more catharsis when you actually get to the big thing that happened at the awards show. And while it was slow at first, the lead up definitely lends itself to that. Like, it keeps winding the tension tighter until it all lets go. So I would highly recommend this one. I am planning on nominating it for the Indie Ink Awards. I'm planning on nominating several books for the Indie Ink Awards this year, just because I remembered that that's a thing I can do. But this is definitely going to be one of them, because it was just a really fun, good lesbian time. Although I don't know that I could say that it's a romance. Like, our protagonist is very clearly gay and has like some kinds of feeling, but like, you know, it's showbiz, it's all complicated. Still sapphic though. And now we are on to November, and in all honesty, this is basically a layover month for me, because I am planning on doing so much stuff in December that, like, I really just need November to be a kind of like a prep month for all of that, because I am going to put out so much content in late December. Thank goodness for working in education and getting a Christmas break off, because I'm putting out so much of that. And I want to, of course, get caught up on all of my books, but also I want to do the Reindeer Readathon. And so there is a chance that I will have to get more books to fill the prompts if I literally just cannot fill them with the books I already have. So I really need to make sure that I read as much of what I already own as possible within the month of November, but also keeping in mind that I need to read for Indigenous Heritage Month, which I do have my pick for that. It's just from the library, and I need to read my new release. So it's possible to get all of this done. As of right now, I believe my owned TBR is at like 14. I just finished a book for November today. So it's doable, but this is the month where I really gotta like make sure everything works going into December. But I am a true Christmas girly where, you know, Thanksgiving is just the stopgap. I don't care at this point. I know too much about the history to ever romanticize that holiday. Regardless, if you have any big end of the year plans for your reading, or have dropped any challenges, or are also planning on nominating books for the Indie Ink Awards, please let me know down in the description below. I'm thinking about doing a video on like the books I am nominating for the Indie Ink Awards, just to share more awareness about it. But regardless, please let me know your thoughts. And with nothing else to say, I hope you have a wonderful day and a marvelous tomorrow.